screens, it's a plot to drop the IQ. Fighting amongst each other over rumors that don't like you. Prefer us trapped in melancholy with the wood wands of holly. Suggestions that obliterate to camouflage the folly. Attempted mental robbery, executed sloppily. The paupers see this mockery and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your wallet.
Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. What a special episode as I get to expose you all to someone who has made my life better, richer, and more in touch than it ever could have been without her. My guest is a longtime piercer of the veil, a brave warrior poet who has never feared to shine light amidst the darkness, a homeschooling mother of 3 beautiful little geniuses, a green woman of the organic gardens, a musician, an artist, a creator of unique and healthy goods at Wildcraft Wellness, a host of her own show, Teatime with Harmony, and most recently, to add to all of those accomplishments, an author, as she's published her first book, Birthing a New Paradigm. And an all-out gem of a human, Harmony Fronterhouse, thank you so much for your decades-old friendship and for being here tonight.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for your time and for having me on the show, Rogue Ways. It's such a privilege to be here.
Oh, thank you for being here. So before we get started, I like to remind everyone that you can find my memoir, my fictional novel, my poetry, my articles that I write, my photography spattered about the site, and even my tarot readings, which I offer to you if you would like a tarot reading. You can come and check that out and figure out how to get a tarot reading. I would love to give that to you. And all of that is on my site, rogueways.org. You can also find the history of audio podcasts for this show as well there. So lots to check out there at rogueways.org. And you're also welcome to come check out the Eyes Open group on Facebook or on MeWe. We are a community of people who are like-minded, but also don't necessarily agree on everything, but do so with respect. And so you can find some open-minded, really good-hearted people there. So come find us there and connect with us and stop by rogueways.org on your way. And now is when I'd normally start the show, but this time Harmony and I both have a plea to anybody listening or watching this to go subscribe if you haven't yet subscribed to our YouTube channels. And that is because YouTube has seemingly found a way to even more easily dismiss channels that they don't like and censor them and get rid of them. And that is by changing their terms of service, in which they've now stated that they can delete the channel of anyone who's not economically viable. And after watching YouTube for years now, get rid of channels that it doesn't like and for pretty underhanded reasons that don't make sense, for sometimes just completely fabricated reasons that aren't true. It seems like this will be just one more way that they can get rid of channels they don't like. Harmony and I both speak about things that kind of push the boundaries in a lot of ways, and maybe some people don't want to hear our ideas, but we both do it with respect and with love, and so we deserve to have our voice heard. And we both would like to keep our channels that we've worked very hard on, but we don't yet have 1,000 subscribers. And one of the ways that we think YouTube might say that we're not economically viable is if we don't get to 1,000 subscribers, we can't monetize our channel. Neither of us have ever, I think, truly done this for money. We don't really care for monetization necessarily. We're doing it because we love doing it. And at the same time, if this is YouTube's new game, then we're going to do what we can inside the bounds of our ethics to keep our channels. And so we both want to get to that 1,000 subscriber goal. I have decided that the 1,000th subscriber, which I'm really close to getting, I'm at 920 last I checked. Maybe by the time this airs, I might already be to 1,000. And if you are the 1,000th subscriber, you will get Sine Curve of Aeons, my fictional novel, for free mailed to you, and also a handful of stickers. You'll get to tell me how many Rogue Ways stickers you want. It's the Rogue Ways logo and a little sticker decal that you can stick anywhere you want around town or on your things. It looks pretty cool. It's a beautiful little logo. So you will get that as well if you're the 1,000th subscriber. And Matt Landman has said earlier that he, for the 960th subscriber, will also give a copy of his documentary movie Frankenskies, as well as a Spiro electromagnetic frequency blocker for your phone. So it's a little baggie that your phone can go inside of, and it completely shuts off any radiation coming to or from the phone. So it can protect you if you're just carrying your phone along with you throughout the day. So those are also a gift that is being offered to the 960th subscriber. And that is the end of my rant. Do you want to add anything, Harmony?
Yeah. And I'm also going to be throwing in a copy of my new book and a custom tie-dye, and also a little gift package of wellness goodies to the 999th subscriber to Wildcraft Wellness. So yeah.
Ah, that's awesome. I didn't even know you were doing that. That's so funny. We're both giving little promotions away. But yeah, it's awesome that people can come and win these things just by clicking a button, just by clicking subscribe. It's easy to do, but it could help us a lot. That is great. And I also want to suggest, like, I do giveaways every once in a while. So if you don't, make it, if you're not the 1,000th person, the 960th, or Harmony's 999th, I think we both do kind of giveaways from time to time. So being subscribed and connected with us can maybe get you goodies in the future too. So, and now in classic Rogueways style, the pointless question of the episode. Harmony, if you could turn into anything for a short period of time, anytime you wanted, what would you turn into and why?
Ooh. So I'm thinking, this is a really hard question. And I mean, I'll probably change my mind 100 times by the show. But I'm thinking what's really just coming up into my head is a paintbrush. Just to experience being able to be that conduit between worlds of the human download of information to the actual expression of art and beauty and creativity onto the canvas. It's just, wow, that would just be an amazing experience. And I'm not really sure why that came to my mind. I do painting. I am an artist and I paint as well, but I mean, there's a million things that kind of flashed into my head first, and like birds and things, and would be amazing, different animals. But for some reason, the paintbrush has just really fascinated me once that came into my head. So definitely would be a cool experience for sure.
It's like a metaphor for who you are in the world as well. You're like a conduit between, heaven and earth. So it's a very Harmony thing to say. I think that I don't really know, because I'm like you. I'm like, there's a million things. Like, which one is best? And I was thinking like a fountain, like a water fountain, so then people who are like really thirsty would have water to drink. So I liked that feeling of that. So I'll stick with that for now. But if we think of different answers throughout the show, we'll come back to it.
You as well are a fountain already. So yeah, keep pouring forth the hydration and creativity and amazing life force.
For all of these very, very thirsty people out there in the world. And I'm not talking about the thirsty that like, this is this funny word now that means like desperate, like sexually desperate. I'm not talking about them.
Those that need hydration.
Yes, or thirsty for knowledge or sustenance or meaning. We're in a meaning-starved world. It's more important than sex. But we like to start here by going like way, way back to the roots. So Harmony, if you had to describe to people what your earliest life was like, what would you say?
Wow. So you were actually part of my early life, which is pretty cool to be able to say that, 30 years later, we're still hanging out.
Pretty amazing.
My childhood kind of goes back to where we grew up on a beautiful island in the Salish Sea. And it was really secluded, and it was almost like a different world. And however, we did, go over town sometimes. Over town. That's what we call it. And there was a sense of seclusion there, where the time was different. Things slowed down. And I remember when I was young, kind of it dawning on me that we kind of lived in a more poverty state of comparison to where other people were around us. Now, on that island, there were a lot of really rich people and a lot of poor people.
Yes.
And I remember, asking my mom, are we poor? And, she broke it down and was like, well, inside of us, nobody is really poor. And, it kind of, the richness is who you are. But at the same time, she was like, yeah, but we're poor.
Yeah, but we're also poor.
And so I'm like, oh, we are. And after that moment, I kind of went into a paradigm of of poverty and of scarcity, of lack, and just kind of defined myself as that. And I also was experiencing a lot of extra sensory perception and a lot of different things that many people would think is, not normal. And also I was going through many stages in my life where I was feeling the kind of shunning from society, and the different parts of my creativity and the different aspects of just those extra sensory perceptions of poverty and those different levels of my life. I started to kind of get a little bit, I kind of enjoyed the seclusion of the island, and then kind of would disconnect myself a little bit. And as I started, and my parents divorced, and so then I had to move off of the island. And as you remember, it was really hard for us and for our friendship because we, as children tried to remain friends. And, you have a whole life that you have to live at school and other people surrounding you. And so, although we remained friends, we weren't able to be very close anymore. And you and many of my other friends, and I was kind of forced into creating a new life and creating new friends and a whole new way of thinking and a whole new way of protecting myself because of all those like traumas and like how certain things had led up to having to kind of like rewrite my whole identity of who I was. Right. And as I did that, I started to kind of explore the taboo parts of life because I didn't have that guidance of both parents. And when I did have both parents in my life, my one was working all the time. And then after that became ill. And then my other one was an alcoholic, chronic alcoholic. And so when he wasn't working, he was mentally ill in that respect with his disease and unable to really, be a, role model. He was a role model, but for something that I didn't want to be.
Right.
And so, he was unable to be that positive role model for me or provide certain activities and things to do and ideas and mindsets. And mainly it was like, oh, I kind of want to numb all that out. And so, with people telling me that like, you can't read minds, that's crazy, or you can't experience seeing colors and sound, or you can't experience these things, I started to go, okay, well, I'm just going to start shutting that off. So I'd explore certain things that were not as beneficial to my life. Of course, they gave me lessons and I learned a lot from them, but they definitely weren't the most beneficial choices to make.
Well, and it's interesting because it's like, this is the exact story of the programming it seems like we're meant to come away with in life, right? Like all of our natural talents that I think most children have access to, but definitely, especially really sensitive people like you have access to, then we're taught exactly like you said, like that's not real, you're crazy or whatever, and you literally turn it off. You can still do it, but you don't pay attention to it, and maybe it gets weaker and weaker because of that. Maybe some people never really get back to it. And at the same time, you're kind of encouraged to do all of these like taboo and risque things that are really detrimental to your body, mind, and soul. And so it's like a double-edged sword, you're like, shut this off and like also damage yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that there is a parallel between, so many of the light bringers. Our story, is like really very similar. I mean, I know that you've gone through very similar walks of experience, even though our direct path was a little bit, the experience of what we actually had to go through was quite different. We still had certain rights to kind of go through and experience for learning. Definitely. And and so I think that the more I would kind of go into those places of exploration, and the more lessons I learned about what I didn't want to do, and like how I kind of saw that mirror of my parents, or the mirror of the people in my life that had unhealthy relationships with certain substances or just certain ways of thinking. I started to kind of wake up and remember who I was and like what was really the things that I was interested as a child, because I kind of went into this period where I was like, ooh, I don't really know what to do when I'm signing up for my electives in middle school. What did you do, Mom? And so I was like, tried out what she did, and that wasn't for me. I'm not supposed to be in drama. I'm supposed to be in art. It's just, didn't work for me. And so certain things like that, where I would have looked outside of myself before, I started to just kind of step into my own power in high school and kind of remember who I am and kind of step into the places that I needed to be and the roles that I needed to be in. And then I kind of went into a relapse, or I kept hitting the snooze button for a while. When I
happens to the best of us. That's when people are like, 20. When did you start to wake up? And I'm like, I mean, when was I not waking up, really?
Yeah.
But there's also like long periods of time in between where I was like, oh, fuck all that, I'm gonna do a bunch of drugs.
Yeah, and that's kind of, it was like an ebb and flow of the tides, and I kind of talk about that in my book a lot. I kind of go back into like some more of the details of my life, and then kind of it moves into a lot of like the explanations of synchronicity and empowerment and metamorphosis and all that I've gone through. And when I was in my 20s, I kind of started to like hit that snooze button and go into a place of party mode, and just like didn't care. I didn't have like my mom. I was still taking care of my mom at the time, but that was like the only thing I was really like living for. I was like, I knew I had a reason to be here, but I didn't know what it was. I was just like, oh, whatever. Just kind of wanted to have some fun, and so that's kind of what I was doing for a couple years. And then I ended up getting pregnant and having my first child with my husband, my now husband. And that changed my life, like absolutely flipped 180, changed my life. And that's a lot what my book is also about, is how having that metamorphosis experience of becoming a mother has actually shifted my paradigm to how I view the world and how I view my connection with scarcity and my connection with abundance and my connection with other people and how I can relate to one another, how we can relate to one another, and how just how connected we are, and that this world is much more than just a party. We're here to do something, and the party is kind of a distraction, although it does give you connections for the future. It's kind of a distraction, so it's definitely a learning journey and a life lesson. And I've kind of, where I am now, I've just learned to kind of shift all the trauma that I had in my earlier experiences of life and kind of view it through a lens of gratitude and kind of rewrite how I viewed those experiences. And through doing that, it has just like opened up this amazing place in my heart, amazing place in the world for my journey and how I move in this world, and the empowerment that I've been able to step into. So it's been amazing.
And therefore that empowerment you've created has gone out and touched countless lives around you as well. And it's funny when you say like this place you've opened up in the world. I wish people really could understand, and hopefully we'll get to like the literal space you've created in your home, because going to your house is like stepping through the portal into Narnia. And I don't know if people will like really understand like how fully that is, like you're immersed in it, and it is like a different world there. And I love that. I love visiting your house because of that. But I do want to go back to the birth of your first child, because I know that was part of your like major disillusionment of like what the world was about, and that there's that you have a lot of trauma probably wrapped up with that I think you've sifted through a lot of it and worked with a lot of it, but that was a kind of really eye-opening experience for you. So if you want to share some of that, I think it'd be good for people to hear some of that as well.
It's pretty in depth, and it is pretty emotional for me. And so I will touch on the basics. And if you want to kind of dive deeper into that, well, there is a lot more about that in my book. Plug the book, of course.
Yes, Birthing a New Paradigm. You can get it on Amazon.
Birthing a New Paradigm. So I'll basically take you back to my birth plan. So my birth plan was no C-section, right? I wrote that all over it. I didn't understand the law of attraction. And I was focusing on what I didn't want. And although I did write some of the stuff I did want, and like essential oils and all these things, and I'm just like really planning it and writing all this stuff down, not realizing you can't plan a birth. Like, are you kidding me? It's ridiculous to even do that. And so, there was a very, very loose general birth plan for the next 2 children. But for the first one, it was, I really wanted to deliver naturally, and I wanted to have the experience that my mother and my grandmother and so on have had as becoming a mother. And so when it came down to the time of labor, my labor kicked in about 5 days to a week earlier than my due date. And so I went in, and they said, okay, well, looks like it's Braxton Hicks contractions. They're just preparing. And so I was like, okay. So I went back home, and for the next week, I was just having like really, really strong contractions. Pretty, they would be very, very like normal, spaced, and like it was actual labor. And then as soon as I would think about going into the hospital, or if we'd get into the car to go or anything, they would just change.
Wow.
And I was like, and that's what happened the first time I went in. Wow. It was as soon as I went into the hospital, all the stress, it was like, nope, not ready.
Wow.
And so finally one night my water had broken. And so I knew, okay, I've got to go in now. And so we rush into the hospital, and the doctor that I had, she wasn't, there was like a team of doctors that she didn't explain any of this to me, but it's like a birth center, and there's a team that she's not necessarily the one that comes and delivers.
Oh, wow.
So it's whoever's on call during those times. So it was a person that I never met in the middle of the night, who was obviously perturbed that I woke her up in the middle of the night. She still had melatonin going in her head, she was like, and when you wake up anybody, that's what happens, the melatonin. I found out that with mood swings when you're pregnant, what that is you're actually getting a dump of melatonin, like someone woke you up in the middle of the night. In the middle of the day. I was like, that makes so much sense. That is exactly what I felt.
I'm like an angry toddler when you wake me up. I'm like hot, and I want like a snack, and I'm mad at you. Like,
yes, exactly.
I get it.
That's happening to pregnant women all over the world every day.
Wow.
Because they're just getting woke up in the middle of the night while they're still awake. Yeah. So anyway, so this doctor came, and she obviously didn't want to be there, and she was kind of trying to rush the process. And they had these bands around my belly, and they were trying to tell me that I couldn't, or that it was slipping, and they couldn't get the reading of the baby's heartbeat. However, during my second and my third, they never used those bands. They actually used this one, was like a tube top, which never slipped. And for my third at-home birth, they actually used just the ultrasound, or the sonic sound that they do in when you go in to hear your baby's heartbeat for the first time when you're at the doctor's office. So there were so many ways. And so basically they used scare tactics to get me into the surgery room. Oh. And they said, you could die, your baby could die. This is life and death. You need to do this now. We can't get the heartbeat. Well, and there was a few other details of like them trying a few other things, and then they couldn't get the heartbeat, and they still couldn't get the heartbeat. And so they recommended C-section. And of course, when you're in that state of like delivery and somebody tells you you could die and your baby could die, like you're like, oh, help me. That's why I'm here at the hospital.
Right.
And so they put me into C-section, and I had a cesarean section birth, and it was really quite traumatic. I was, I was not prepared for having a surgery and a new child. So I was recovering from surgery and trying to take care of a baby. Of course, I had help from my husband, but it's just never enough when you can't even pick up anything that's heavier than your baby. I mean, there's so much to do as a person, let alone as a mother, and everything. So I learned that after speaking, and I still had a lot of trust for the doctors. And so after I ended up getting pregnant with my second daughter 13 months later, and they told me, okay, so when are we going to schedule your next cesarean section? And I said, what? And they said, yeah, that's what you have to do. You have no other choice. And I went, wait, no other choice? That's my trigger. What's my other choices? And so I started to research, and we got a new doctor. And she said, you have many choices. And there's this thing called VBAC. And it's VBAC. It's like vaginal birth after cesarean. So common that there's an anagram for it.
Yeah.
Are you telling me there's no other choice? So they were fired. We got this new doctor.
Good for you.
And she was amazing. She delivered my second daughter, and through the delivery of her and through my son, I learned how much deception was going on at the hospital, and how they can basically tell women that are confused and just trusting in order so they can get more money. So they get paid. The whole medical care team that you went and saw, even though they didn't deliver you, gets paid. And they can charge you for everything in that birthing suite. They charge your insurance for all the little things in the cupboard, even though they don't use it. Yeah. Then they can charge your insurance for the surgical team. And then they can charge the insurance 3 days stay at the hospital instead of 1. And then they can charge the insurance for all of the drugs that they try to put you on, and the catheters and everything else.
Right.
So when I realized that level of deception, follow the money.
Right.
And I just was shocked. I was floored. And I was like, wow, another part of society I can't trust.
Yeah.
With the schooling system, as you know, when I was a child and they told me Christopher Columbus discovered America, and then the next sentence they said there was people here, I was like, no, I'm not stupid,
right.
Okay, I'm going to start questioning things, and I'm going to play your game, but I'm not going to believe it all. I know I got to play your game to get out of this system.
To get out, yeah. Just to be free.
I have to wait to get out of here without being put in jail. And so I basically learned the levels of deception even further with that. And then my daughter was vaccinated, and by the first doctors, this was in the time when we were trying to transition and everything. And another thing that I trusted the doctors and didn't do enough of my own research.
Right, as most people do. You think that doctors are there for your best interest. Yeah, you should be able to
trust that that's
you're
your best.
Paying these people for this.
She went into a severe anaphylactic shock. She went into fever.
How awful.
Seizures, and we brought her into the hospital, and they said that those were common side effects of the vaccinations. Common.
How old was she when this?
Like 18 months.
Wow. Yeah. A baby.
By then, she'd already had more vaccines than we've ever had in our life. I know. And now she's thankfully doesn't have really high autism, but she's on the autistic spectrum, and has allergies more than my other 2 children that weren't given the same vaccinations that she was. They have their really high immune systems, and she has a little bit of behavioral issues that kind of come with the autistic stuff. And we all kind of deal with stress from this world, but it's really hard when you have to deal with that. And I don't know, I think a lot of us are on that autistic spectrum as well. I know that
definitely
I am. And so it's really hard to kind of see your own child go through that. And then just the pain that she went through with her allergies and her eczema and everything that she was dealing with because of the over toxicity of her liver from having to kind of clean out all of these environmental toxins, and not just the vaccinations, but the soaps that we were using and the food that we were eating, and all of these different environmental toxins were putting an overload on her liver. And it was amazing once I found all that out, how we were able to just turn our whole life around. So, we used to eat everything box cereal. We got WIC, women, infant, children checks from the state to give us assistance so we could have more food. And the food that they were giving us was all giving her allergies.
Yes. Yeah. So the WIC food is all
sorry. And I actually educated those people there. The WIC people, the woman had eczema all over the back of her hand. And when I told her that we found out that the eczema was from the different foods, she looked at her hand and said, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to cut out milk and dairy, this, that, and sugar." She ended up doing that and healing. So
that's awesome.
When you find out that your food is directly connected to your health, that's another big awakening for me.
Which should be like a basic thing that you're taught, and learned like intrinsically inside of you for the rest of your life since you're a child. But instead it's like the opposite. Like no doctor ever suggests nutritional changes when people have, come in with complaints about their health. And it's like you kind of know it, but like you're not really encouraged to think about it. You're not really taught it. There's nothing in our society that's reinforcing it. So it's just not something that people think about.
Yeah. And the cool thing is it is starting to shift a little bit now that people are getting so sick and realizing the correlation between, their lifestyle habits and everything. But it's the ignorance when we're still down in that fog from all those toxins.
Yeah.
That keep us in that perpetual state of,
it's
a spiral.
The attack comes on many fronts at once and they all reinforce each other for sure. And I think it's also really hard which most of us are, especially before we wake up and especially before we do a lot of the healing that we were talking about doing, are kind of incapable of making those changes because we're so mired down in our emotional negativity and our sort of lower vibration. It's really difficult to make positive life choices when you're depressed or anxious or, cut off from people in meaningful ways. And that's what most of us are most of the time. So there's another layer to that too.
That is the goal of those two that seek to control us, keep us dumbed down, keep us sick, keep us needing the system, keep us wanting and fearing each other, needing our security systems and our separation from everyone, and all of our stuff all over around us. That's not the meaning of life. Right. That's the meaning of fear and consumerism. But there's a balance. There's a healthy balance between all that, and we can consume while creating at the same time, and find a way to consume in healthy ways. Consume in sustainable ways that aren't just sustainable for our body, but sustainable for the community, sustainable for the world as well. It's important, especially at these times. A lot of people are calling climate change or whatever, you want to call it, but it's really just a shift of mentality. It's like, okay, whatever the mainstream scientists are calling the climate shift, really there may be a general shift of the ages happening, which with the precession of the equinox, there is an ebb and flow of temperature, fluctuation on the earth. And, there's obviously many, many people out there that have kind of values of greed and corporations that are polluting, and that needs to be looked at and addressed. Yeah. But it's definitely not going to be solved with spraying the skies with chemicals, and it's definitely not going to be solved with more fines, because fines and taxes don't do anything.
No, they get more money from the government, which misuses it in countless ways.
Well, they just be like, I don't care about that, fee, and I'll just pay that because I'm making more money off of this crime than I am I can just pay off the fine.
And honestly, if you look at any sort of system like that, the people who are wealthiest, who are the ones who are doing the most damage, they don't ever end up paying for their crimes anyway. And the people who are, the most oppressed and screwed and have the least choice about what they do and what they consume and how they consume it are the people who would end up getting fined for it. So it's the same old story again, where it's like
jail for fighting for the water, and the pipeline just burst.
Yes. Yeah. So this is exactly why I'm like, when people are kind of rallying behind Greta Thunberg or the UN or whatever, it's like, I get the sentiment. We don't all want, but most rational people want the world to be a healthy place where the earth is taken care of and people are respected. But if you trust the UN or the government to do something good for you, you haven't been paying attention. That's not the way to do it. And there's a lot of really good ways, and you've already mentioned some of them, which is like supporting, your local community, and kind of bringing things back to home, because that's where you're going to have the most impact and effect anyway. And then you're robbing corporations of their profit if you're not giving your money to them. So instead of, I just did a live stream a bit ago about Christmas coming up, and like how we can do alternatives to buying just a mass of like consumerism, like, this glut of crap that's usually made in China and crappy and meaningless. Instead of that, there's all these things we can do. And one of them is, buying things from people like you who create not only really healthy and awesome, useful products, but things that like literally come with your heart, like infused into them, and then you and your whole family benefit from that as well. So things like that are the things that I think are going to save the world.
Yeah, and that's what it came. That's what the holidays really like originated in.
Used to be.
I have a video on kind of like the Wheel of the Year, a whole series of videos on how like the holidays kind of started in the ancient traditions, and I kind of go back to the Yuletide and how that was the darkest days of the year when most people were starting to run out of the stores of things that they had. And so that they would have an abundance of like whatever they did. And that's when they would be like, okay, let's get together, community, and share the things that we grew, the things that we make, the things that we love, and share those with the other people that don't have those things during those cold, dark days of the year. And that's what it's really about.
Yes.
So,
but it also like shores up your energy and your spirits when you come together like that at that like literally the darkest time of the year as well, right? So it's like body, mind, and soul.
Sing some songs, and do some dancing, light some candles. That's like super, universal throughout the world. We gather, we sing, we dance, we light candles. I mean, come on. Let's just see it how it is, and that we're all on the same team here. We're all just speaking different languages, and
think about the kind of not traditional, but think about the, what should I say, like the more like mainstream, like new tradition of Christmas is like a bunch of like harried, hectic, like stressed out people like converge in one place and like throw some food together and throw presents at each other, and then they like rush away again, and it's like, what?
And they're angry at each other when they leave.
Yeah.
Like, all judgmental, and definitely not Christ consciousness. No. Definitely not Buddha consciousness. Definitely not Krishna consciousness, This
is like the most stressful time of the year for some people. It has like the highest suicide level, and a lot of people check into mental health, like, professionals and stuff. And it's like, this is why, but there's clearly a better way to do it, just clearly. Like de-stress. And one of the things I talked about on that live stream was doing, instead of gifts, like make gifts, buy gifts local, or try just like having an event for your family to do that's actually relaxing and fun together. Like go away to somewhere with like a hot tub or something, like snowshoeing or something that you guys all like to do or whatever. And then actually spend time together, like get to know each other again and like reconnect. And like, wow, how nice does that feel, instead of going to a mall, shopping, and like going through all the hectic, and like the lights are icky and the fucking vibe is nasty and the scents are like fragrance, and like instead of dealing with all that, like do something nice for yourself and each other. I don't know.
Yes, definitely. Highly recommended.
Well, now that we're off on that topic, I do want you to describe to people, if you want, you could describe to us like what your holiday might look like, but I really want you to describe your home and kind of how you set it up and what your vision is for that, because that's something that you've, recently created in your life, I think.
So 2 years ago, we moved here. We previously, before that, we lived in a little, suburbia city, third of an acre that we had transformed into a urban oasis, kind of urban homestead. And we were bursting at the seams in our little 2-bedroom house and 3 kids and thousands of plants and chickens and bunnies and everything. And so we decided that it's time to move, well, to like find a new place. And so it was kind of, for me, it was like living in Everett was another one of those things of a lesson in the law of attraction. So when we were first trying to find our place, we wanted to find something actually like what you had lived in Granite Falls, and much like that, and actually looked out in that area and everything. But for some reason, well, one of the reasons was because I said anywhere but Everett. And so apparently we had to go live in Everett. And there's reasons why I didn't want to live there, is because I also previously lived there, and I kind of go into that in my book too, of a lot of the other reasons why.
It's a bit sketchy.
And it was apparently a lot of healing that I needed to do.
Yeah.
And so we not only healed the land, we healed the etherics, and I also was able to heal a lot of wounds that I had inside and a lot of fear that I had. And when I first lived there, I couldn't even walk a block away to the store by myself because I was so afraid somebody was going to attack me. And now, we've moved out and we live out in the country, and it's beautiful. It's like 2 acres, and it feels like 5-acre lot, but it's just the way it's laid out. It's just beautiful, and we're creating a retreat space for our family, for our friends, and for other people that also want to use the space as well. And we have a beautiful home and a place for the animals. We have rabbits and ducks and chickens and a tortoise and cats. And the kids are saving their money so they can buy a sheep. So awesome. They have really cool goals. And I'm just really proud of them and how amazing they are. We have a beautiful garden space that when we first moved to that Everett place, it was just 2 trees and a bunch of mossy, spongy grass, and that the guy had, spent his life keeping pristine as he could in the shade that it was growing in, which was funny because it didn't like to grow there because it was just mainly moss. But anyway, so we'd fixed that all up and changed it to an oasis of plants. And
like, seriously,
there's kind of like,
I just want people to understand, like, this tiny lot, like, you'd walk in and there's like pathways all throughout like the garden, and every single spot is like another type of plant all kind of interspersed together. And like it was like its own little like jungle, and like literally right next door on either side, and like every side is just like the cookie cutter like sort of duplex like home with just like grass and like concrete, and that was it. Yeah. So it's just like its own little slice of abundance right there in the midst of this like concrete jungle. It was pretty amazing.
It was Shangri-La.
It really was.
It was amazing.
It even had a water feature. Yeah. Like you had your pond with the koi or whatever.
We did. And we dug that ourselves. We were out there. I was out there with babies on my back, digging the ground, ripping up soil, ripping up
and the neighbors were probably like scared. They're like, what is it happening over there? And it's like, life is happening.
Yeah. They're like, whoa. But it actually did like kind of ripple out eventually, and a few of the other neighbors decided they wanted to start like caring and growing food and doing some cool things. So it was pretty awesome. And actually, that brings me back. You can actually on my YouTube channel find a lot of videos from that place. And cool. I did a bunch of videos on that. Was some of my first videos was name that plant. And I would go around my property and just like, have people guess what plants were and then tell them. And then it goes in some other ones where I did some cool homestead tours where I got a little bit more advanced, and a couple years later. And, there's a lot of really cool memories that you can find on our channel too. So cool. Go check those out. And so we were able to just totally transform that. And I felt like I was in a sentence, like it was a jail sentence, like I had to live there certain amount of time. And then all of a sudden it was like, I felt like that sentence was lifted and we could move to the next place. So I was in a state of flux and transition and just feeling that need to move and shift. And that's when I kind of really stepped into a lot of manifestation powers of being able to kind of focus on what I want instead of what I don't want. And really, it was so amazing how everything flowed together to put us into this place. And I mean, all the synchronicities that just, I mean, I could write a book just on that and all the synchronicities that have flowed together to, because I had so many doubts because, you know, moving is a big change, and especially moving to a new area that you've never, like, I've been to this area, but I've never lived in this area.
Yeah.
And so, and to like move your kids and your whole family, it was, and away from all your friends and further away from your family. And it was very hard for me. And so I had to trust a lot. And that was a big theme for me, is just trusting and believing and knowing that everything's happening for a reason, and kind of like understanding the different forms of discernment that I had developed over the years, and how certain feelings of guidance was pulling me to different ways. And so I was able to really harness all that and kind of focus on what we wanted, focus on the vision that we have. And it just really fell together. It was absolutely amazing.
It is amazing. I mean, it's not just just the few stories that I know about it, aside from like our childhood friend helping with that process, which was pretty cool too.
Yes.
And then you told me that at some point in the past you had like driven by and you were talking about like, what are some of these houses are like not really what I want, but they're something more like, oh, that property that we just passed, and that like ends up being the property that you're on.
Yeah, so that's like weird, because we were talking about how houses were like right on the highway, and like they were like, I was like, that's so weird how all these houses are like right on the highway. Why don't they just have them back further? And I'm like,
because they have like property, they could have like gone back.
Yeah, and of course it was probably for convenience, you know, because it's easier to build, you know, without big machineries back then, closer to the highway and stuff.
Yeah.
But you know, and this was a little bit quite newer home, as you know, only 20 plus years old, just a little bit. And so, yeah, it was really crazy. And I didn't realize any of that until after I moved here, and I was driving down the highway coming home, and I had that same thought about the houses on the sides of the highway and how close they were. And I'm like, oh, wow. And I got chills, and I was like, no way. Because I drove up to our house, and I'm like, I have to drive past it. And I drove past this house like 4 times. And then I was like, it has to be. And still for like a month and a half, I kept doubting myself. No, that could
no way.
And I was like, no, it totally is. There's no other house that looks like that between, you know, point A to point B of where we were driving. There's no other house that looks like this from that highway and where you can see it. So I was just like, it's amazing. And then even the price of it was like a numerology, synchronicity, and just everything. The people here, our neighbor, we ended up meeting through our work on a separate occasion through the Oso landslide and the tribes and this piece of this log that brought us together. It's amazing. So, you know, that's a whole nother story as well. So many synchronicities to kind of verify that we're supposed to be here.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm not only healing the land here, but I'm also healing the energies in the community, and I'm also healing myself and maybe past generational traumas of, you know, ancestral stuff, and also just anchoring energy where I'm supposed to be. And
absolutely,
it's interesting because this land here, my godmother, about 5 miles down the road, used to live out here. And before that, another friend that I know used to live out here. So just anchoring that energy into the land. And
well, I just want to stop for a second and reflect on that, like this, because this is a common theme, and I want to like assure people it's an accident. I don't sit down at every episode and like think about like how can we make self-responsibility a part of this conversation. Like I never do that, but just by chance. Literally every single episode of Rogue Ways, if you want to go through it and listen, every single one of them, by the end of it, comes back to this point that like the one thing you can do that's of the greatest value in this world is to become responsible for yourself and to heal yourself and to, think, speak, and act in the most with the most integrity that you can, always like with the aim of growing and healing. And in doing that, this is why, like the story you're telling is exactly why that's so important. When you do connect with that, you heal yourself and you bring that out into the world, it literally changes everything else around you, all of the people around you, the literal space around you, and on many different levels as well. And those synchronicities are they're a sign of like, keep going and this is the right way and whatever. But I think they're also like a side effect of that ability to like work on those many levels at once. So I think like it's just cool to not only come back to that theme in this episode, which I was sure that we would because it just happens, but also like to see like how clearly that is the reason why it's important to focus on yourself more than anything else. And it sounds kind of selfish, right? But this is the least selfish thing you can do. This is your gift to the world, really.
Yeah, it is. It's service to others through service to yourself by taking care of yourself. It's definitely the service to others that is ascending you through the energies.
Right.
And it's like the oxygen mask, you are advised as a parent to put the oxygen mask on yourself first, or you're not going to be able to get it onto your child.
Yes.
Right. You can't help anyone if you're not taking care of yourself.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't mean be selfish. It doesn't mean, like put yourself before everyone else. It means, or have like an inflated ego. It means have a balanced ego that protects you from the things that it's supposed to protect you from, but also is connected to something greater, and that, your higher self that's integrating at this time.
Yes. Amen. Well, I love that.
Oh, yeah.
So now your house, again, like just like you've done in Everett, and I'm positive you're not even done yet. How could you be? But when you go to your house, it's like that same sort of wonderland is appearing there. Because I saw it pretty early on, and the people before had a nice garden area, and but it's already like the last time I went, there's like 5 times the amount of mostly food bearing plants and herbs and whatever, and your chickens are still happy and your bunnies are still happy, and it's just such a cool place to see. And the house itself seems like the people who built it did it out of love and with quality as well, which is a rare find. Like it's most houses are just thrown together with crappy shit by crappy people, and they're just like barely standing boxes, but your house seems like it was built with love.
It is. It's a really nice place, and I absolutely love it. And I'm so thankful for all the work that the people put in here before us. They were just absolute lovers of plants, and so we really just kind of reaped what we sowed at the other house, and
cool.
And we're able to keep building on and keep planting, and we've created this really neat space for all the grapes and the kiwis. I'm so excited to show you. It is just, it's an outdoor space. So once all the vines grow up, it'll be like a room, like a huge, 20-foot room.
That's so rad.
And yeah, it's incredible. And then we got the dream net up. A friend of mine, I don't think you got to see it.
No, I did. Yeah, I got to go.
Oh, yeah, you did. You got to see it right after it was built. That's right.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, a friend of mine built this amazing dream net out here, and yeah, we have an incredible space. Todd has been building
tell people
some really cool structures. What's that?
Okay, before you get to Todd's structures, tell people what a dream net is, because that nobody knows what that is.
So the dream net is like a cross between a big dream catcher and a tree. So if you were to crochet the trees together with a huge net structure that you can bounce and jump on, cool. It is an amazing fun experience that we, a friend of mine, she is the creator of Dream Nets, and she's like on Treehouse Masters and stuff. And I actually had the privilege of meeting her through my children, and our little babies were babies, and we camped next to each other at the same time. And so it was really cool.
So cool.
How we were connected, and who knows if we would have met if we didn't both have babies at the time.
Right.
That's another little thing that, as a parent or even as a teacher, you'll notice that your children will guide you to the people that you're supposed to meet. And it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's really amazing. So she built that, and we have just been absolutely loving it. And it's a really fun feature for the kids, and even for us adults. We've had 3 adults already camp out overnight on it.
Rad.
And we absolutely loved it. And
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so, and we're building a tiny home, and going to be having retreat space and that kind of stuff. And it's just such a privilege to be able to be a caretaker of this land, and to be able to pass it on to the next generations, protecting it, from, the ever increasing construction and
destruction,
development that's all around. That's actually one of the amazing ways that we were able to get this place. I have a child.
Kitty cat.
That's one of the amazing ways that we were able to get this place was by, but because they didn't post it online, or they didn't post it on the street on the highway, because they didn't want development. A little distracted there.
I was going to say, it's hard to talk and focus on all that at the same time.
Yes. Bless his heart. Wanted to be part of the show.
All right.
So yeah, it's been amazing. It's been an amazing journey here. And I know that there's much more to come. And I'm able to do lots of videos here, a lot of gardening videos on how to, plant things and harvest things. The kids love to help me with that, and building how-tos, DIYs. I'm able to focus a lot with the kids and create their videos. My daughter Lily is an amazing artist and does her YouTube how to draw videos, where she shows how to do cartoon caricatures that are absolutely incredible. And
she's so
my other kids do their little creative crafting DIYs, and it's just so much fun being able to be part of their life and be a pivotal role model, and to show them that you can do what you want to do, and you can live the life that you envision living, and still have balance between all of the eating healthy and learning, math and, all the stuff that you don't necessarily want to do, but you need to do. It's, it's cool instilling that into the next generation. And
it's pretty amazing for me to watch, especially as an educator, because you're basically conditioned or indoctrinated as you're becoming a teacher to sort of believe that homeschooling is like an aberrant, abhorrent activity that you should shun and dissuade people from, because it isolates kids, and parents don't do a good job, and they think they're teaching them all what they're not, and the kids don't have the right skills, and blah. There's all these reasons that we're told to look down on it and sort of push it aside. And I never really bought into that fully, but I also you just kind of have it in your head anyway that it's not the best choice. And obviously it is the best choice, but also the one thing that I was sort of worried about was what if kids didn't get the right skills, and who would be checking and who would know? And it's a silly fear, because who the kids don't get the right skills in school anyway. But your kids have definitely shown me that not only do they get the right skills, they get more skills, better skills, quicker, not even necessarily quicker, but at the right time,
Yes.
Some, I can't remember, one of your kids took a bit longer than would have been acceptable in a public school to start reading. But then when they did, they were boom, off and flying into higher levels of reading. So that reinforced that there is not really a time line for learning. It happens, as long as you're engaged in activities throughout the day, you're learning. If you're not plugged into a TV and turned off, or like left in a dark room alone, and you're a child, you're learning. Like your brain is always, you look at a baby, they're like a sponge, they're like absorbing all information, and kids basically retain that until you kill it out of them, which is what public education does. So like your kids have shown me that not only is homeschool great, it's much preferable, and they're basically geniuses. Like I look at them and they've always blown me away every time at every stage. And Zaddy, who we just saw when you were back in Everett, I love to tell this story because he was literally 2, I believe, and he took me through your garden and named every plant and told me which ones you could eat. And I don't know any of them or which ones I can eat because I'm not as smart as a 2-year-old apparently. And I was just like, this kid is amazing. Like, so
he is very smart and absolutely that's a skill that I think everyone should have, is being able to identify what you can eat and what you can't eat in nature, because that's another really big fear that has been instilled into us is, don't eat it if you don't know. And that's a good rule to live by, but you should know, like start educating yourself, and
if I was
there's
stuck in the woods,
but
I would hope he was
pretty
with
basic me. and there's basically the lookalikes that are poison. You can really identify and not eat the other one that looks like it, and you don't really want that anyway. So, but the other ones are really pretty identifiable. And it's good to be eating plants, and not just the plants that they're giving us at the grocery store, but to understand that there are like a plethora of plants in your own garden, in your own backyard, that are actually better for you, full of more nutrition, can detoxify your body and boost your immune system much better than any pharmaceuticals.
And to be clear, you're talking about anybody, whether they have a garden or not. Like you can literally go into your backyard and find these plants. Yeah,
absolutely. Yes. Like dandelion is one of the most shunned edible foods.
Poor little dandelion.
You can eat the leaf, you can eat the flower, and you can make many things, and they're super detoxifying on your liver, which is amazing because right now we're all inundated with so many toxins that we should be on a constant detoxifying regimen. And drinking some dandelion root tea once a month can be really beneficial to anyone, and most people are out there spraying some Roundup on it and giving themselves cancer when that plant could actually heal the cancer they're creating. And so it's the irony in it, and the paradigm shift is coming, and it's underway, because I've already seen many people that used to spray their lawns, pulling their dandelions now. I've seen many people that used to not speak to me because I spoke about, geoengineering and, chemtrails and prolonged aerosol contrails like 10 years ago. They didn't speak to me, and now they're, coming and asking
you for help
and or posting their own stuff about it. And that gives me a sense of hope. It's really amazing that the shift is happening, and the way that it's going down, and how people that you would have least expect are really opening their eyes to the greater truths of reality. And these kids are absolutely incredible. They know so much, and as long as you let them kind of grow at their own pace, and you identify, if you understand basic growth patterns of
child
the human
development,
child development, exactly, you can kind of tailor it to where they need to be. And if you allow them to grow at their own pace, they really will bloom and flourish and just be, as amazing as they're allowed to be.
Right. I love that. Be as amazing as they're allowed to be. And in public education, we don't allow them to be very amazing at all.
No.
I love this idea of people waking up more. It seems to be that a lot of people are noticing that and seeing it. And I'm like, I'm in the middle about it, because I'm like, I see it a lot, but I also see the pushback against it, and I see how kind of successful it seems to be. And it's very saddening as well to see, like, especially with the whole Donald Trump and like the division. I really feel like they're pushing for a civil war, and I really feel like a lot of people are fully buying into it. And there are people who seem to me to be very intelligent and pretty open-minded and pretty aware, just like 3 or 4 years ago, have seemed to suddenly like shut down and become very afraid. And it has to be all of this programming becoming really effective. But I also have seen a few of them sort of start to like at least question, like, why am I so obsessed with how much I hate Donald Trump? Like, I get it, he's a dick, but like, why is it the thing that you're like focused on nearly obsessively? Like, look around you. Are you okay right now?
From their great missions that they were doing 5 years ago. Right. And then all of a sudden they're distracted so much they're not doing all the things that they are supposed to be doing. Right. And I think that that's one of the greatest ploys, you know, turn against someone and be over, you know, infatuated with how evil they are. Yeah. And then you'll forget all about all the things that you're supposed to be here for, you know. And or like you said, the divide and conquer tactics where, you know, they're trying to divide the right wing against the left wing when it's all just the same bird. Yeah. Flying in the same sky. Right. So cut it in half and it falls. Yeah. And back to what you were saying about the homeschool thing, I had a thought about most of the parents that want to neglect their child, they don't want their child with them all day. Yeah. When they have an option to send their child away and have somebody else take care of them, like, thank God. They will. And so you're really, most of the people that are homeschooling, like 90%, are the ones that realize that they can provide their child a better education. They realize that the school system is failing our youth, and they realize that the social etiquette of the school system is really detrimental to cognitive development and to the development of emotional development and even physical development of the youth. You know, they're being plunged into this world where they're being forced to grow up way too soon, and they're being forced to, you know, they're being expected to have adult-like behavior when they're children. Yeah. And, you know, of course we need to guide them and teach them what is expected of them when they are an adult, and, you know, teach them how to do certain things, which, you know, our whole life is life skills. Yeah. And, you know, my children know how to make a smoothie. My children know how to, you know, create a meal, and they know where it comes from. Yeah. They know that a carrot can be pulled out of the ground. They know how to identify the green leaf that comes out of it. And when we worked at Farmer Frog, we do a lot of volunteering for this nonprofit at this garden in Everett. We were there once a week, and we would actually, my son would teach the other kids where the food would come from. And they were in shock. They could not believe that apples came from trees. They could not believe that carrots came from the ground. And you try telling them milk came from a cow, and their jaw dropped. Their jaw dropped. You know, it was amazing. So to be able to have children that can be able to function if something were to happen to me tomorrow, which, you know, is possible for anyone. Of course, you know, we're not going to focus on that, and we're going to like see way into the future with our children. But, you know, something could happen, and they would be able to function. And they also know morals, and they also have a great ability of communication. They can come to me with anything. They can tell me when somebody's told them to lie. They can come and tell me when somebody's told them to eat sugar and they don't want to. Because they don't want to. I've made it their choice. I'm like, well, do you want to get eczema? Yeah.
I love it. They came over to my house once. They're like, can I have this? And I'm like, yeah, you can have that. It was like an orange maybe or something. They're like, is it organic? And I'm like, oh, no, it's not. And they're like, no, I don't want it. I was like, I love you so much. Like, that is amazing. What kid can like self-regulate to that point? But I also love it because when you say that they can create their own meal, I mean, they like literally can create it. Like they can like figure out what the seed is and like how to plant it and where to plant it, when to plant it, grow it up into the plant and then harvest it and then like cook it and eat it or whatever they want to do with it. Like fully create a meal. And then they know how to take the seeds out of the pumpkin or whatever, dry them, and then, you know, grow a crop next year. So that's amazing. I think that cycle is really important for us all to get back into touch with, because I wish I would have known. I mean, growing up on the island, there was a lot of farm culture, and my mom was pretty good at, you know, she had a garden and she was pretty inept and had a great green thumb. But
we never taught that at school. And for the most part, it was not really something that I knew. You know, I always wanted to know it, but it wasn't until I was able to really get my hands in the soil and really start like planting the plants and writing the tags of what they were and looking at them daily and understanding, oh, well, that's this plant, and oh, that's a peppermint, and oh, that's a bee balm, and oh, that's a, you know, calendula, and then starting to use them myself. Then I was able to go, oh, and that's when I was sick and I had a really bad headache, I looked up what herbs I could use and they worked. And so now I know when you have a really bad migraine, you can use lemon balm and feverfew in conjunction, add a little bit of peppermint for flavor, and bam, it's amazing. Nice. But I would have never known that if I didn't get the headache.
Yeah.
You know, so it's the same thing with like my moon time and menstrual cramps. Like I have had the worst cramps. I know that you did as well. And the worst thing, it's one of the worst things to deal with. Yeah. And I made a tea that actually helps. And it wasn't until that one day where I couldn't take it anymore. And I was like, what's going to help me? Oh, I have that and I have that. Oh, and I have, oh, put it together and it worked. And I was amazingly. Like, this is amazing. And now I can share that with my daughter and, you know, and other people and, you know, many people that, you know, I was at a festival and this girl came and she's like, I don't know, can you help me? And I was like, yep, I got something for you. She came back and gave me like 50 presents later on. She was like, oh, I just can't believe something actually worked. And, you know, so it's just a matter of like suffering and then doing something about it and then learning, you know, and as long as we can take that out of our suffering and like really, like you said, empower ourselves to do the work, then, you know, the power and the potentials are endless.
Yes. I love it. Give back that knowledge and that healing and like reroot it in the world around us so that it can carry on. Because I feel like these are part of there's a reason these skill sets aren't taught in school, and it's because they're very empowering and can basically save us from a lot of the ills that are meant to befall us. So it's really important to send that out into the world. I really want to start my own garden. I always do. And then I move every year or so. So I never actually do it, but I have done it before. But I'm really looking forward to hopefully the place I'm in now, creating something like what you have there. It's very inspiring. And I even found a local community that does composting help and assistance and like gardening. It's kind of like a gardening group. So I'm going to join that too and do it with other people because I think that's the way to go as well.
It is community. I mean, the soil helps grow community. Absolutely.
Literally.
I absolutely believe that.
I'm excited about that. So we'll see how that goes coming up here in a few months. But I want to know what like sustains you, you know, when you do have kind of hard times befall you, because obviously it's not all roses and sunshine all of the time. So, you know, what keeps you going through the darkest of times?
Well, I think for me, it's knowing that I'm here for a reason, knowing that I'm leaving an imprint on not only the land, but on the energetics. I'm also leaving an imprint on my children, and every decision, not children and the children's children, that what we are doing is serious. And of course we're supposed to play and have some fun, but like there's some real seriousness behind why we came to this earth. And it has to do with the work that we're all doing and rewriting trauma, stepping out of fear, and kind of stepping into our own empowerment and living our true destiny, because every person's different. Everybody has a different thumbprint. Everybody has a different eye sonic or a voice sonic and an eye retinal imprint. Everybody is different. Even identical twins, all worldwide, we're all different. And it is so important to recognize that we're not supposed to be put into a box and that there's a reason that we're here. And so when I really fall into, you know, that downward spiral where I feel like I'm going into depression or where I feel like I just want to just give up, I kind of just remember that it's all happening for a reason and that my children will benefit from the growth that I do. Everything that I'm doing with my mind and my heart and my emotions and my body is all affecting my DNA. And whatever affects my DNA affects not only my children's DNA, but also the DNA of humanity worldwide. So, knowing that just kicks me in the butt and says, get your ass back up.
Yeah. I love it. I think like that could feel like kind of overwhelming to people too, if they're like, wait a second, whoa, I'm like responsible for all of that. Like I cannot do that. And so I'm just going to remind people too that there's no rush.
No, it's all in
you do it in your own time.
It's
right.
all in divine time. Yeah. And it could be overwhelming. Absolutely. And I think for each person, we're all going to have our own story of what gets us through. Yeah. And, but it is a true reality, that there's something greater happening and there's a reason Absolutely. You're here. So, song, dance your dance, do it. They say dance as if nobody is watching. Dance as if everyone was watching is what, our ancestors would say. They prayed for us, and they prayed that we would be the one to break the cycle, and we are. So it's important to remember that, and just to know that it's a learning lesson, and it's kind of like a video game where you kind of get points for doing righteous acts. For serving others, you get more points. You got to keep your health bar high, otherwise you'll be out of the game. It's important to kind of remember those aspects that we knew before we came here and we kind of forgot.
I love like my birthday's coming up, and instead of 38 years old, I'm going to be at level 38.
Oh yeah. Leveling up.
38 in the game, leveling up.
Well,
what thank you. What projects are you? Sorry?
Oh, I said I've got some goodies for you.
Goodies from you are always the best. What projects are you currently working on? I know you said you're maybe doing like tiny house stuff and kind of creating like a retreat space. How's that coming along? Yes. Or what else is in the works?
Yeah, so we're creating new spaces, a tiny home. Of course, I'm planning more gardening stuff for, finishing off this year and getting it done in time for, the snow to start falling, and kind of planning next year. And then, that's on like a real physical level. And then energetically, I've been, purging a lot of stuff that doesn't really work for me anymore, really doing some soul searching, kind of checking in with myself on the things the traumas that have been happening in the that I have experienced that kind of put me into some shock. And so I've been dealing with that. A lot of stuff happened about a year ago that I've been kind of processing still. And just energetically, I've been clearing a lot of stepping into who I am and the reasons that I'm supposed to be here, which is writing my book. Just finished and got that published. You can get it on Amazon. And that was like, almost 10 years of struggle and it being erased a couple times.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that one. And yeah, just some real tests to see how serious I was about that. And so I've been doing
you on it.
Yeah. So I've been doing a lot of like promotions on that, trying as a mother of 3 and homeschool and everything. And I also do caregiving for my mom who's disabled. So I've been really busy and just trying to like squeeze in promotions in between that for the book. And I'm going to be having a book release party, hopefully pretty soon, maybe in the next month or two. And so I've been working on that. I have a bunch of YouTube videos we've been working on. Been working on the Teatime, some kitchen alchemy, some videos on paradigm shifting, and been just doing a lot of fun things with the kids outside in nature, a lot of mushroom hunting. We love to go and have mycology time where we're out and harvesting chanterelles and boletes and whatever else we may find to identify, and then if they're edible, eat them, or just learn about them. We love doing that at this time of the year. We just went out yesterday and harvested like 2 pounds of chanterelle mushrooms.
Wow,
so that was
chanterelles.
Incredible. And yeah, just a lot of really cool stuff like that. And then this weekend, I'm actually get to go and retreat for the first time in like so many years. I get to go, I am working, so I'm going to go and teach a sacred song workshop and a couple other little workshops, and at a women's ladies retreat in Rockaway, Oregon this weekend. So
cool.
It'll be really awesome. I'm super stoked on that. And we created a nonprofit organization called Wildcraft Kids that we've been working on. And this is the first year. So it's all just kind of development and planning on that. And then also, my business and my YouTube page, Wildcraft Wellness. I've been, putting a lot of effort into advancing that and getting it, more user friendly. And just did a bunch of work on my website, which was so dated, and able to kind of work with that. And excited to see you when you come into town. Working on myself, working on the great mission. So yeah.
Yeah, like the amount of things you list when you talk about what you're working on is incredible to everyone watching, I'm sure. I often have been, people respond to me like, how do you do all of that? But I don't do half the stuff you do. So, I'm sure that people's response is something like that. And, I think that people forget how much time you can create for yourself when you're not kind of stuck in the workaday world that most people are. And you've worked very hard to create this for yourself, and it's still a lot of work, but it's in a different way. And so I think you have a lot of space for yourself when you create something like that. And I guess I just want to mention that to help people understand that, if you create your life very intentionally, there's no kind of limit to what you can accomplish. And, when we're stuck in these routines that we're meant to be indoctrinated into and programmed into, it's incredibly time consuming. My last job that I had, I was commuting 2 hours a day. So just driving was 2 hours a day, and taking that out alone adds 2 hours is a lot of time for you to do something with, so there's a lot of time you can create for yourself basically when you're going to create your life intentionally. So that's, I think, part of it. And another part of it is just how intentionally you live. You know that you're going to use your time wisely, and that you're going to be active and engaged with all those processes all day, every day. And it's not, they're things that you love. So it's not, I think, probably exhausting like some people could also be imagining that might be oh my God, all of that, I'd be so tired. And it's if it's something you love, it's not tiring, right?
Yeah. So. And I think one of the keys to that is eating well. And I remember when I was going through a lot of health issues, when I didn't eat very well, I was very, very, very tired. All the time, and exhausted and foggy and overwhelmed, and just not clear, not able to have that vision of what needs to get done. And cleaning up my eating habits and not really drinking caffeine anymore.
That's a big
one. Supplementing that with herbal infusions and tinctures and tea, certain things like that boost our energy in a natural way, or even fruit sugars that have the fiber with them so that they're metabolized properly. Eating a lot of green things are full of energy and chi, and will give you more energy and chi. Using essential oils can help boost your memory. Rosemary will boost your memory. There's many different things that when you step into a cleaner lifestyle, they will help boost that ability to do more with your life. And, of course, there are days where I don't want to do anything. My kids will keep me going. Having children, or even pets, I mean, you can't, you can neglect your children, but I mean, I can't. So I will pull myself out of bed if I need to. And I will, take care of certain things that need to be done. And I will have days where I don't want to do very much, you just do the bare minimum, and the house doesn't, very cleaned, and, many things don't happen, but the minimum, the most important things happen. And I think it's like an ebb and flow. And it also like goes with the moon cycles. If you look at ancient information about moon cycles and how that they ebb and flow with different activities, and how like you mow your lawn on a full moon, and it slow, or I think it increases the growth, and you mow it on a new moon and it'll slow the growth. And certain days are more beneficial for writing, and then other days are more beneficial for cleaning. And if we don't have an understanding of any of that, it can be like a big jumble. And I actually have this really cool book. It's like the Nature's Almanac to Success or something like that. And it says like all these different correspondences on what you can do on each day. And it's like clumped by like 3-day periods on how the moon signs are connected to the different astrological signs. And it's pretty amazing when you do follow some of that stuff. It really does. Like on one day it says laundry stains are dealt with more easily. It's like, really?
Like, how is this so specific?
How is this even possible? But it works, and like on days where it says to do cleaning and you do cleaning, it's just like easy. Wow. And if you try to do cleaning on days where it doesn't like say that it's done with more ease, it just seems like it takes longer and it just is lame. So, be easy on yourself. Know that there's an ebb and flow in your life. Know that there's a space for when you're supposed to be writing, when you're supposed to be sleeping, when you're supposed to be cleaning. And, it's okay to relax, and it's okay to really work hard, and it's okay. Whatever you're doing right now is what you're supposed to be doing, and it's getting you to where you need to be. And I think that that's one of the most important things. If you see a light in me, if you see a light in Lindsay, it's only because you have a light. It's the reflection, it's the mirror. And that's one of the things that I talk about in the book as well, is like we are mirrors to one another. And
absolutely,
what you see isn't necessarily what you are. It's showing you something that you need to see. And so if it's like you're seeing something negative in somebody, it doesn't mean you're negative. It means that there's an experience that you're meant to look at. And you're maybe meant to look at how you're putting boundaries, or maybe you're supposed to look at how you're judging others, So we're all set up in this hologram kind of to interact and interplay with each other so we can grow. And as long as we're in that state of growth, in the state of germination where it doesn't seem like anything's happening, or even that state of fruiting where we're creating the seeds that you can't even see further on, we're all in the place where we're supposed to be. So just let the sun shine. Don't let them block out the freaking sky with chemtrails. And go into the world where there is no chemtrails, and you're feeling good because it's sunny. Let the sun shine. Let the rain rejoice when it rains.
Yes.
Enjoy the snow when it's here. Enjoy the heat when it's here. And try not to step too much in your mode, because it's easy to fall into. And when you're there, just know you're there to help rewrite it.
Yeah. I love it. It's a beautiful thing. So what if somebody is looking at everything you just said and they're thinking to themselves like, no, I couldn't possibly like ever do that? What would you say would be like the first thing that they could start to do that might help them get closer to it?
I think for me, it was just getting shocked into it by getting sick. So if you don't want to get sick to learn your lesson, you might want to start looking at the lessons that are there, showing you what you can work on now, because sometimes you can have to suffer really bad before you learn. And having a near-death experience is pretty shocking. And realizing that your kids may not see another day of you is pretty like awakening. And so, we can wait until we have those experiences, or we can slowly emerge from our cocoon and realize that the caterpillar had the same DNA as the butterfly. and they just didn't know. And, it's okay to be a caterpillar in your stage of caterpillarness. Enjoy being a child when you're a child. Enjoy being an adult when you're an adult. Don't try to grow up too fast and be an elder before you're ready. Don't try to, relive your childhood. Just find that balance, and being connected with your inner child, be connected with your sage, find the balance of it all while celebrating who you are in the body that you've chosen to come into at this time.
Amen. I love that. So what about you? Who are you today because of all of the things you've gone through, and how is that different from who you were way back then?
Wow. So I am so much different. I'm the same soul, of course. I'm not a walk-in. But I'm different. I've definitely grown and progressed. I have been able to remember who I was as a child and embrace those dreams and visions that I had. I was like, oh, I wanted to be this. I wanted to do that. I want to do this and do that. And remember putting the pieces back together and reintegrating those extra sensory perceptions and things that I've had. And I'm able to kind of step away from the society's perception of what's normal and understand that my path is my path. And I'm supposed to be walking with my feet and experiencing what I'm experiencing. And if other people aren't experiencing that, it's okay. That's their experience. It doesn't discredit their experience, but their experience doesn't discredit mine. And, I used to be in fear. I used to really be locked in fear, really have a sense of scarcity, and was very stuck in judgmental patterns of other people because I wasn't comfortable with my own skin. Like I said, I partied too much in my teens and 20s, and now I'm, I don't even know what I am now. I'm Harmony right now.
Yeah.
So now I'm more integrated and balanced.
Which is Harmony? What's a Harmony mean?
Kind of shifted my lifestyle to that of more sustainability. I kind of creating the way that I see my own reality, and therefore it reflects on what comes to me in my reality. So when I kind of realized that, it kind of changed everything. When I realized that what I focus on is ultimately what is going to come. If I focus on everything I don't want, then it kind of is a energetic attraction to that. It's saying, oh, it's like the universe doesn't hear, I don't want to move to or anywhere but Everett. It says, what, Everett? So I should have said, oh, Everett? What I do. Oh. And the universe is like, oh, that's what, it's not necessarily like the great mystery doesn't give you what you don't want, or what doesn't hear what you don't want. It just hears what you're focusing on, and it kind of just brings the match to you. So learning that has absolutely shifted how I walk in the world and how I move through my life and how I interact with, my friends. I definitely cherish people like you and, my children and my husband, my family, the people that are in my life for a reason. I definitely cherish and am in so much more gratitude than I ever was in my life. I know losing my own father, losing my mother-in-law, and many other people that are important to me, to the cycle of life and death and them dropping their earthly robes. I understand how fragile life can be, and so I understand how important it is to make and to step into the visions that I have for myself, and not let all those voices of doubt that used to stop me. Like I've learned the discernment of what those voices are, and my higher self has integrated more, and so I'm able to just say, that doesn't matter. This is what matters. And I've kind of gained a sense of more worthiness. So that being said, I'm just more balanced and integrated, I think, than I was through a great chunk of my life. And I think I'm much more like the entity that I was when I first came into this world and this body. When I was a child, I definitely have that sense of wonder and compassion and trust and unconditional love that I used to have, that I lost and then regained and then lost and then regained. And and now I can look at people with and see the soul and the light in everyone. Even when they make evil choices, I can go, wow, they must have been really hurt as a child. Wow, that program that they lived, wow,
it's still so deep within them.
To rape a child and think that that's okay, they must have been raped as a child.
Yeah.
I mean, most people get raped as a child and go, oh, that's not okay, I'm never going to do that again. But sometimes when you get into a paradigm where there's no other sign that that's not okay, they think that it's okay, and so I find compassion. I don't think that anything is right with that.
No.
But I feel like, wow, you were hurt.
You have to have been so hurt
and so
I'm able to hurt that poorly, that badly.
Yeah. So I'm able to see people a little differently. I'm not so angry as I used to be hurt. Like I used to sob and cry myself to sleep at the condition of this world.
Yeah.
But now I know that it's all playing out for much grander reason, and I'm part of that, and you're part of that, and everyone watching is part of that. And it's really cool to even see all the changes all around us, see the cracking open in the media. And even in the mainstream media, they're covering stuff that you would never ever have thought that they would have covered 10 years ago. If you were looking into the future and into Project Looking Glass.
Yeah. And they're like struggling harder than I ever thought they would have had to struggle just to like try and get people's attention, because so many people have opted out of obsessing over the media. But there's still a lot of people left obsessing about it, and it's still pretty effective on them. But it is pretty incredible to watch them have to react this strongly to how much power they're losing is pretty awesome. I like it.
Yes.
And I love that you said
is proof of our success.
Exactly. I love that you said that you have this new or this renewed sense of self-worth too, because I think this is another thing that's very important for people to think about, because you have those narratives, like you were saying, in your head, and they're often telling you to doubt yourself. And, one of the deepest ones that I think a lot of people don't realize is running in their head is this thing that like, well, you don't really deserve that, or like, you didn't really work hard enough to get that, or like, is that really something that like not everybody's going to get that or whatever. And it's like, that really comes down to like, do you think you're worth it? And the answer should always be yes, you are. And you deserve everything good that you've ever dreamed of for yourself. And it's just not a message that is really taught to us or put out into the world for us to think about. And so if you've never thought about it and asked yourself, like, what do you think you're worth, as you're probably running a pretty negative script in there. And so it's pretty important to get in touch with that and to rewrite it, because you should be like actively telling yourself, like, I deserve this, I deserve that, I'm worth this, whatever that is, unless it's because like alcohol.
Even every day I'll find myself coming into those places where I'm having to rewrite things. It's like you hear that doubtful voice, that narrative trying to run in your mind, and you're like, wait, that's not me.
Yeah,
that's not my authentic self. That's no, okay. And then you can kind of acknowledge it, blow it a kiss, and say, you worked before and now you're not working anymore.
Nice try.
So, and what once served us doesn't necessarily serve us in the future. So, like some pair of socks that were our favorite pair of socks are eventually going to wear a hole, and you can fix them and you can fix them and fix them, but eventually they're not going to serve you anymore. Whether you gain weight or lose weight, or your shoes, rub a hole in it, or whatever, sometime you're going to need a new pair of socks. You're going to need to update your software. And so, you know, it's okay. And to not have regrets, to not have, you know, judgment on yourself for things that were mistakes, you know, it's just a take and you just missed it and you just take another take until it's right, you know, and it makes us greater and stronger and a way for us to find more empowerment in our own journey, in our own path.
Absolutely. Well, this has been an incredible conversation that I hope I know many people will find empowering and uplifting. And I want everyone to know where they can find more of you and especially where to purchase the book, where to purchase some of your goods and services, and where to find anything else that you would like them to have access to.
All right. So you can find the book on Amazon directly. You can go to Amazon and Kindle. And you can also go on my website at wildcraftwellness.net, and there's a link as well. And you can find some of our other products and services and education on wildcraftwellness.net. And I also have a YouTube page that we spoke of earlier, Wildcraft Wellness on YouTube, and highly suggested to subscribe for free, and you will get all the newest videos, and you can check out all of my previous videos as well. And you can find me on Facebook, Instagram. I'm under Harmony Fronterhouse. And I have many pages on Facebook. We've got Wildcraft Wellness and Wildcraft Tie-Dye, Wildcraft Kids. Yes, and I
oh my God,
really awesome
tie-dye. I should have worn your tie-dye because yes, your tie-dye is the most amazing tie-dye I've ever seen. I mean, I know people are thinking in their head like, oh, whatever tie-dye, but like seriously, the work you do in tie-dye is incredible. People would look at it and not even think that it was tie-dyed. That's how good it is. It's really cool. I'm glad that people can check that out. Where is that? Where can they find that?
You can find it. I'm going to put some more up on my website, but for now it's at Wildcraft Designs Tie-Dye or Wildcraft Tie-Dye on Facebook.
Okay.
And we can maybe throw some links down in the comments, some
all
cool
these
pictures
links
or something. And
all these links will be in the show notes under the video as well. So yeah, definitely.
Perfect. Yeah, and so yeah, you can find me on Facebook, and there's an Ascension page you can go to, and I'm always all over Eyes Open Network, and yeah, I would love to contact you, for you guys to contact me, and any videos you want to watch, they're all open for you guys right now.
And definitely subscribe. Like we said before, you'll be entered to win. What were they winning from you? A copy of your book, right?
Yes. So I have a couple different giveaways. So I have the 999 subscriber is going to get a copy of the book, a custom tie-dye, and a gift basket.
Dude.
And yeah,
this is incredible. Now I want to be your 999th, but I'm already subscribed. So
don't unsubscribe just so you can subscribe.
No, please don't.
And then I'm having another giveaway. So the next 500 people that subscribe and like a video and comment on a video get an entry to win either the custom tie-dye or a gift basket full of goodies. And there will be 10 winners out of 500. So
that's a really good odds right there.
Yeah, it really is.
Good stuff.
And I'm excited to. So and your likes and your comments and your subscriptions, you will definitely get a chance to get rewarded for that. So thank you guys. It's really appreciated so much. Yes. Thank you, Lindsay. You are just awesome.
Thank you. And just keep in mind, if you're watching or listening, that it's not just Harmony and I's channels that might be on the chopping blocks if we don't get to 1,000, which I know we'll get to 1,000, so we'll be okay, but we need your help to do it. And so please do like and subscribe, and also spread it as far as you can to other people. Put it on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you're sharing things with other people. Email people if that's the way you do it. The links themselves make those, accessible to people so that they can subscribe really easily if they're not super computer literate. I think some people just don't understand how easy it is to subscribe and how it costs you nothing, and it only provides you with good stuff, which is the stuff that we do, that we bring to you on YouTube all the time. So do that, but also go look for other little channels that are sitting around, because they might not even know what might be coming their way. And if you like their content at all, just subscribe to it and help them along, because we got to all stick together to make this work and to get past the censorship that is always threatening all of us, especially us little guys down here. So we just want to keep doing what we love, and we need your help to do it. And thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing it with your friends. And Harmony, what are your kind of final words that you want to send out to people listening or watching from home?
Oh, wow. So some final words would just be to believe in yourself, connect to your dream, your vision, your purpose here, and understand that everything that we've gone through is just a stepping stone to the greatest journey that we've ever been on. And that's here with each other. And we are the ones that we've been waiting for. Literally, we are the ancestors, we are the answers to our ancestors' prayers. And we are, those amazing stars glittering in the sky that are looking down upon us. We are soil underneath our feet. We are the air that we breathe, and we are the sun that shines down on us. We are all of the elements. That's what makes us up. And to disconnect from any of that, connecting from ourselves. So in order to connect to one another, the most important thing is to connect to ourselves, which means to not disconnect from nature, not disconnect from our own true purpose. So remember that we are here for a reason, and to live your greatest purpose.
That was the most well-spoken summation of all of the good things that this show has ever brought people in one place that I've ever heard. So thank you for that. That was really well done. So fellow travelers of the path, it is a beautiful thing. This has been your analog, electric, concentric dose of wisdom according to Harmony, my lifelong friend. Thank you for being here tonight.
Oh, I love you. Thank you for having me and spending your Friday night. And you're just awesome. I know you're completely tired, and I just thank you for your time.
You as well. You do as much or more than me. More, obviously. So the trails we trace back through time can bring us pain and darkness, but they will always also reveal the light. It was always there, even when we wouldn't look at it. It will be there still, even when the next darkness comes to try and convince us there's nothing but hopelessness and despair in this world. So never forget, and until you are the light that shines for all to see, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first, and go by birthing a new paradigm.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
It's a one-on-one lesson, so do your homework. Make your dome hurt while up on earth. My bones are blessed from holy dirt. Vibes manifested to words that told me search for verbs and adjectives to describe birth. Worth more than one can speak, while the tongue feeds a weak, a sour taste in your mouth, bittersweet. Words can also kill you when you sleep. Mind condition, low frequencies while the subconscious mind listens. I can tell a vision filled with lies, disguised as truth, and spread it like the word to the youth. Watch the tube. A place where the God was booed is sorcery. To recreate a God forgery does more than meets the eye. Not too many know. Just hear me flow like the eye of Horus Penio. Yeah, not ready to leave until we believe we're free to go. You hear me, yo?
Sculpted from the ether, the material will eat ya. Stuck on this plane, lanes use jet fuel to greet ya. The dimensional three ain't beating me on top of the fourth. Didn't climb Jacob's ladder to squab with a sword. Forged with Yggdrasil, branched out, try quiet your lamps now. Ascension past the matter, let they slam out they damn mouths. We ain't on land now. they over understand, sacrificing wisdom, hoarding dumber kosher wicked hands, putting faith in worthless worship of the mortals, artificial portals, mass ingestion of the black goo, bioengineered morsels, conversing with machine elves, bypassing maggots, they stuck on Android screens now, I'm scrolling emerald tablets, Moloch living lavish, off the backs of the savage, them clasp hands at the Sabbath, smack of energy damage, they done twisted the tongues, put nanotech in the lungs, the awakening's begun, all they really can do is fucking run.